Awesome. Thank you so much, Nika, and thank you for organizing this amazing event. As you mentioned, I think it's extremely relevant at the moment, and it's much needed throughout the world, really. So, yes, today I'm just going to be talking a little bit about stress and anxiety, the effects it has on our bodies, emotionally, physically, as well as behaviorally. And yes, I'm a holistic health coach. And as someone who has personally struggled with self love and really taking care of myself and my health previously, my intention today is really to drive home the message that the health of you, your business or career, and the health of those around you really starts with your personal health and your self-love and self-worth. So before we kind of get into everything, I would like to do a breathing exercise with all of you. So this is called the 4-7-8 belly breathing exercise. And this will just help you kind of relax and be present and mindful and aware in this moment. So what happens is we're going to breathe in for a count of 4, we're going to hold for a count of 7, and then we're going to breathe out for a count of 8. So I will count, I'll do it with you. So place one hand on your chest, on your heart, and one on your belly, so you can kind of feel your belly going up and down. And you're going to breathe in, 2, 3, 4. You're going to hold it for 7, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then breathe out for 8, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just let it all out. Let out all of the stress and tension. Whoops. And this is something that you can repeat by yourself at home, and you can repeat it 5 to 7 times just to kind of get yourself relaxed and in that state of presence and mindfulness. So just a little bit about myself and my background. So I'm from South Africa, and throughout kind of my high school and university years, I struggled with an eating disorder, and I think it was really, for me, an unconscious coping mechanism and an unhealthy obsession to kind of control external pressures in my life. So it was a really unhealthy way of me to manage my stress. And I thought I was empowering myself by controlling everything that I was eating, and I felt a kind of sense of control in that. But I was really disempowering myself. My parents went through a divorce, and I was also very stressed about, kind of deciding what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and just, kind of other stressful factors. And it kind of manifested in this eating disorder where I felt I could, I could control what was on my plate, and that in turn would kind of affect the number I saw on the scale when I weighed myself. So I felt like it was really a way of me controlling things. But of course, the flip side of that and the side effect of that is, I was constantly exhausted, I was moody, I felt very sad. My anxiety was also at an all-time high. And then it impacted me, in terms of my looks as well. I wasn't, my skin wasn't getting enough nutrients, my skin was very dry, my hair was thinning. So it really wasn't a great way of managing my stress. And there were kind of 2 points along my journey, 2 distinct memories of like turning points for me, where one of my friends said to me, Kylie, if you get any thinner, you're going to disappear. And half of me was kind of proud of that, because she was noticing, you know, how thin I was getting. And when you're in that state of trying to gain, you know, external validation, you thrive off of, you know, comments like that. But the other half of me was kind of like, well, this isn't normal or healthy, and I don't want to disappear. You know, I was kind of losing my spark and my energy. And it was through that, and also an event at work where I was, you know, I almost fainted at work, and it was impacting my work and my exercise routine, which had always been such a huge part of my life, and I didn't have the energy to exercise. So I decided that, you know, how I felt had to be more important than how I looked. So without naming it, I was starting to practice, you know, self-love, self-care, and just starting to really listen to what my body needed. And I think, you know, we are all caregivers in some regard, and a lot is required of us. So it's really, really vital that you make time for yourself so that you are able to give to others authentically and deeply, and you feel more vibrant and have the energy to really, you know, fulfill your purpose and what you need to do for you. So I always say you can't give what you don't have, and health is also not one-dimensional. You know, we are whole beings. Health is not just the food on your plate and what you're eating. Of course, that's a huge part of it, but you know, how you're managing all areas of your life can really have a big impact on your overall health. So I always like to say that our bodies are incredible biocomputers. They're always trying to keep us in balance and homeostasis, and it's really our responsibility to listen to them and give them half a chance to heal and maintain that balance. So it's really important to honor yourself and your body through practicing self-care. So this is just a little exercise. This is interactive. If people can just like put some comments in the chat. So I want to ask you to name 3 things on your to-do list, either for today or in the next in the next week. Just 3 things that's on your mind, that's kind of at the top of your list. So if people can just pop that in the chat or in the comment section, I'd really appreciate that. Give you a couple seconds to do that. Okay, so we've got yoga, great, meet friends for dinner, enjoy the sun today, I love that. 600 jumps with jump rope, that's amazing. That's very, very ambitious. Okay, training, healing, meditation, yoga, breakfast, workouts. Wow, get in touch with people that I'm put on pause. I love that. Okay, so lots of exercise, some food related things there, moving your body, which is great. So it's very interesting because when I usually do this, declutter, wow, more discipline in life. So when I usually do this exercise, you know, a lot of people, it's very kind of work-based. They mention deadlines or laundry or, you know, other things that kind of take preference. But it's really great to see that here, a lot of you have mentioned kind of, you know, things that really prioritize your health. You've got your yoga, you've got your eating well. And this is just an exercise to highlight that health is often not a priority for a lot of people, but obviously this is a very healthy community. But the key is that we should be in the top 3 of our list at least. And I'll explain why. So I'm just going to chat about kind of the effect of stress on our overall health. So as I mentioned before, physically, mentally, and emotionally, as well as behaviorally, how it impacts us. And these are some stats from the American Institute of Stress. And majority of cases reported to healthcare providers are stress related. So stress manifests in different ways for people. So, pain, anxiety, nausea, insomnia, constipation. And this obviously highlights that stress is a really huge problem. And being in that kind of constant state of, chronic inflammation and stress can lead to illnesses as well as aging. But the good news is that it means it can be avoided or at least better managed. So it's really important for us to know and understand what activates it, the stress response, and then what we can do to down-regulate that stress response and get back into a more calming state. So this looks complicated, but to our body, any kind of stress, be it financial, work-related stress, or relationships, it's all interpreted the same as a direct threat to our life. We're still primal beings, so any kind of stress-related event, anything that we perceive to be stressful, will activate that stress response to try and protect us, to get us into that fight, flight, or freeze response so that we can, protect ourselves and respond accordingly. So this stress response can affect everything from how we break down food in our body, how it's stored, the choices we make around food, our sleep, our digestion. So it really is an all-encompassing effect. And I've got there the red zone. So that's the fight, flight, or freeze zone. So that's the stress response. And then the green zone is rest, digest, repair, and reproduce. So that's the state we want to be in majority of the time so that our bodies can perform their functions optimally. And there are really two things that activate the stress response. So the first thing is caffeine, which I know a lot of people enjoy or kind of live off of a lot of the time, and our perception of pressure or urgency. So our perception of stress is psychological and it's based on our life experience. So we all handle stress differently. People have different perceptions of stress. What I find stressful may not be stressful to someone else. So those two things, caffeine and how we're perceiving a situation as stressful, can put us into that red zone or that activate the sympathetic nervous system. So that's the fight, flight, or freeze zone. And that's very restrictive. Our body is trying to send as much energy as possible to our kind of internal organs to make sure that there's enough blood flow and energy going to the organs that we need to fight, or flight, or to run away. So your heart, your lungs, your muscles, so that you can run. It's all your energy is directed inward. And all non-essential functions will be down-regulated or suppressed to conserve your energy so you can respond in that way. So some of the physical responses might be like superficial breathing. So you'll be breathing, from your chest instead of your belly. It'll affect your sleep. So you're in sleep restoratively. Your digestion will be compromised. And you might experience, palpitations, heart palpitations, or high blood pressure. So those are some of the physical responses or reactions. Then it also impacts us emotionally and how we, think, our thoughts. So this can have a really negative impact on relationships or how we interact with others, or our business, how efficient or effective we are at work. So it might decrease your concentration, you might experience mood swings, forgetfulness, not like demotivation, not feeling motivated, racing thoughts where you're just feeling very overwhelmed and you don't know where to begin with certain tasks, anxiety, a feeling of hopelessness, and then sometimes anger that manifests in those ways for people. Then stress can also impact us behaviorally. So we might withdraw from activities or events that we used to enjoy. We might decrease the amount of time we spend exercising, teeth clenching. Sometimes I notice myself clenching my teeth. Increased spending has also been, studies have shown that, when people are stressed, it can increase spending. And then it also impacts us around food in terms of either overeating or undereating. Some people respond differently. So I'll chat a little bit more about food in a minute. So basically, we don't want to be in the red zone. It can really impact us in ways that we may not even realize or be aware of. So it's important for us to spend as much time as possible in the green zone, or at least know how to activate it so that our body can, like I said, work optimally. So the green zone helps the body store fat and energy effectively. It increases your digestion or your stomach activity, so you're digesting your food properly, you're breathing properly from your diaphragm, not from, not superficially. You'll sleep better, more restoratively, and your mood will just be lifted as well. And it can also impact your immune system. So the more you're in that green zone, the better your immune system will be, to be able to cope with any, bacteria or any other stresses from the environment. So there are 3 stages of the stress response. The first is the alarm stage. So that's when your body will release the stress hormones, otherwise known as cortisol and adrenaline. And like I said before, that's activated by caffeine and your stress perception. Second stage, your body then tries to adapt to those external stresses. But if your body is, triggered too often, or those stresses are too strong, your body will remain on that kind of high alert. And I think for a lot of people, we're always switched on. We're always connected on our phones. And I think we're always kind of in some level of a stress response. And our body can build up a resistance to a point, but eventually it will lead to burnout, and this is something that we see more and more in modern lifestyles. And like I said before, that will lower your immune system, so you're more prone to diseases, and a lot of diseases, most diseases, are related to inflammation in the body. So yeah, it's really important that we're aware of this and we know how to cope with it and how to downregulate that response. So stress and diet. Stress will affect your diet in 2 main ways. So one is your behavior around food and the choices you make. So when you're in that state of stress, you'll probably crave more highly palatable foods or tasty foods that your body knows will give you kind of an instant source of energy. So that's high calorie, high fat, high sugar. So your cravings will be affected. And then it also affects, like I said before, your digestive system and how your body actually stores that energy. So it might increase kind of the fat around your belly and abdomen, again, increasing your risk for diseases. So as we can see, it's a really kind of vicious cycle. You feel tired, something stressful at work happens. Maybe you get a little bit sick because your immune system is compromised. Then you aim, you reach for more stimulants. So something like coffee, just to kind of boost you and wake you up. But of course, coffee and caffeine activates that stress response, releasing those stress hormones, cortisol and adrenaline. That impacts your sleep and your energy levels. And that puts a strain on your adrenal glands. They're the ones that are producing the cortisol and adrenaline. Then you sleep badly, and it's just, kind of this self-perpetuating cycle. So how do we break it? So it's really important. I'm going to be talking about kind of 6 pillars that we can use as a reference to try and down-regulate that sympathetic nervous system, that stress response, and also upregulate the green zone, the parasympathetic nervous system. So obviously one thing you can immediately do is really just be aware of how much caffeine you're consuming if you are experiencing, stress or anxiety. So maybe cut down how much coffee you're drinking. And then I will chat about, different ways you can upregulate that relaxed state. So before we begin, I just thought I would debunk some self-care myths, because, there's a lot out there on what self-care is and isn't, what you should and shouldn't be doing. But really, I think it's important to know that it's not all or nothing. People think that, oh, well, I need to book myself into a spa for a day, once a month, and that's kind of it. But what it's really about is, enjoying the simple things, relishing life's like small, simple pleasures. It can be a cup of tea, reading a book. Really doesn't have to be, all or nothing, which ties into the next point, that self-care is a luxury. People think that, oh, I need to spend a huge amount of money, like I said, with the spa, or I need to go have my nails done. That's what self-care is. But it can be, something as simple as meditating. Again, people think, well, I don't have time for myself. How do I fit in myself and these things when my schedule is already crazy? And it really doesn't have to take up a lot of time, but it's just it can be 5 or 10 minutes where you're just kind of mindful and present, and you're really doing something that relaxes you and brings you joy. And it's more about making small, manageable, realistic changes to your everyday life to ensure that you are taking care of yourself. So I always say it's important to aim for progress over perfection. So it's just about making small micro habits that will eventually be kind of macro habits. Again, people think, oh, well, I don't deserve to take care of myself, or I need to have done X, Y, and Z to be able to take time for myself. But as we see, if you are, in that elevated state of stress and anxiety, if you're denying yourself self-care practices, it can lead to burnout. Last point is that, people think, well, I'm being really selfish if I make time for myself. But I just want to kind of drive home the message that prioritizing yourself and making sure you're, giving yourself and practicing self-love is really important, so that you can kind of fill your cup and give to others and your everything in your life, your career, more deeply and fully. Because if you take care of yourself and you prioritize that and fill your cup first, so you are energized and excited, then you can give to other areas of your life more vibrantly, more fully. So self-care is not only about the fluffy things. It's not, just about having your hair done or anything like that. And there's no real way of doing it right and wrong. You know, it's a practice and it's different for everyone. So some days it might be a hot chocolate on your way to work. Other days it might be saying no to something. So, you know, creating boundaries. Or it could just be simply, you know, reading a book before bed. But it just means that you are caring and nourishing yourself in the best way for you so that you can give the best of you to other areas of your life. So I'm going to be chatting about 6 pillars of self-care to kind of help you manage that stress. I'm a huge fan of Deepak Chopra. He speaks about this a lot. And these are kind of based off of some of his principles on how you can kind of self-regulate your body and nourish yourself. So the 6 pillars are meditation and stress management, it ties into that, sleep, nutrition or nourishment, movement, how you're moving your body, emotions, emotional, you know, regulation, and biological rhythms, or another word for that is grounding. So I will take you through each of these and give you some tips, practical tips and tools that you can use to start practicing your self-care. So meditation and stress management, this obviously will help you just kind of be more present, mindful, aware, and it can meditation can literally change your brain. You know, studies have shown that by meditating for, you know, consistently for a period of time, at least 8 weeks, can increase the gray matter density in your hippocampus, which is a part of your brain that's responsible for learning, memory, self-awareness, compassion, and introspection. And it can also kind of deregulate or decrease inflammation in your body. So there are a few great apps out there. The one that I really love at the moment is called Balance, and they are offering a free year subscription kind of in response to everything that's happening at the moment. And you can start really small, you know, 5 minutes a day, and they kind of guide you through that. So that's a nice place to start. There's also apps like Calm or Headspace that you can also try out. And then another technique of meditation is something called body scanning. So that's just where you're kind of checking in with each part of your body. You know, how is it feeling? Is it tense? Are you holding any tension there? And just kind of scanning from your head all the way down to your toes, and breathing during that exercise. Journaling is something that I personally love. And there's a couple techniques with journaling. The one thing that I find very helpful is something called unconscious writing, or just a brain dump. And that's kind of best in the morning before your conscious mind and ego kind of wakes up. And that's just, you know, kind of writing down whatever comes to your mind. Maybe something happened yesterday that upset you, or you're anxious about something coming up. So it's just really letting your thoughts flow and putting them out there. Other great kind of journaling prompts or techniques is, you know, writing your intentions for the day. So you can ask yourself a simple question like, what's my message for today? Or simply you can have kind of conversations with yourself, or Gus. Gus is God, universal spirit, whatever you believe in. And that can also just help you kind of release any tension or negativity and kind of help you reframe your thoughts to more positive thoughts. And then breathing exercises. So we did one in the beginning, which was the 4-7-8 technique. Another technique I like to use is something called the box. And that's really where you just find a square or a rectangle in your room. So it can be, you know, a TV screen, your laptop screen, or just pictures. any rectangle, and you just trace the outline of the box. So you breathe in one side, you hold it and breathe out. So it's just a nice relaxing way of kind of bringing yourself back to the present moment and helping you deregulate or downregulate that stress response. Second point is sleep. So obviously sleep is, I think it's very underrated in the health and wellness sphere. And it's really important for physical and emotional healing, repairing and refreshing. So, you know, throughout the night, our body is kind of restoring itself. So immune cells refresh themselves, and a lack of sleep can really impair our reasoning, problem solving, and also our attention to detail. So I think it's really important to aim for between 7 and 9 hours of sleep. 8 is kind of the optimal number. And if that seems a bit, you know, daunting, if you're only getting, you know, 5 or 6 hours of sleep, then I always recommend that you just start small. So go to bed 15 minutes earlier or 30 minutes earlier and just see how that makes you feel, you know, over a period of a week, and see how that kind of impacts you. Another way to get more restorative sleep is to decrease LAN, or light at night. So a lot of us kind of are on our phones, or maybe we're watching, you know, Netflix on our iPads, and that LED or blue light can cause hyperarousal. So our bodies are still very much awake, and exposure to light suppresses the secretion of melatonin, which is a hormone that influences our circadian rhythm. So basically, it makes it harder for us to fall asleep as well as stay asleep. So it's important that we kind of switch off a little bit before bed so that our bodies can regulate themselves, and you can get a more restorative night's rest. And then, since we're, you know, in China, I thought I would include something on feng shui. So that's basically a Chinese, ancient Chinese system of balancing our physical environment to promote harmony and a sense of well-being within ourselves. So feng shui, wind and water are the most fundamental elements we need for life, and this kind of just helps us promote a calm environment. So having a bedroom that's clear of clutter, maybe with more neutral colors if you can, to really promote a sense of kind of relaxation so you can have a better night's sleep. Unplugging as many appliances or chargers as possible, so you don't have that kind of current and electrical energy in the room. And then also making sure that you have clean air so that your body is, you know, breathing in more oxygen that can help, you know, your brain and restore your cells. So having a plant in the room or just an air purifier is a good idea. The third pillar is nutrition and nourishment. So this is obviously one of my favorite topics. And you know, when we're nourishing ourselves, I like to think of it that we're feeding ourselves with energy from the sun. And you know, when we're nourishing our bodies, yes, it's really important to, you know, kind of get your greens in and all of that. But again, I just want to highlight that, you know, health is very holistic. So this is just one pillar of that. And I know there's a lot of information on nutrition out there, and I feel like there's a kind of information saturation, you know, eat this, not that, do keto, paleo, all of these things. But I always just come back to, you know, diets don't really work and they're not sustainable. So my tips are always just eat real food and keep it as simple as possible. So, you know, eat foods that are more plants, not made in plants or made in factories. And, you know, by making those choices, you'll automatically crowd out, more refined foods and foods that are less nutritious for you. So these are just a few nutrients to kind of focus on to really help you, improve your health and help you feel more, increase your vitality and your vibrance, can help with, your skin and the beauty bits, as I like to call it. So your hair, your skin, your nails. So making sure that you are getting a good balanced diet, high in fiber, high in antioxidants, so berries or colorful fruits and veggies will really just make a difference. So you don't have to, go vegan or go vegetarian or any of those things. But I think just having kind of plants as your base is a really good way to start improving your health. And another point is just to eat mindfully. So I know a lot of people, you're busy at work, you're in a rush. People are eating food or lunch at their desks and not giving it, you eat kind of unconsciously. So mindful eating just really means that you're developing an awareness around, what you're eating and what's on your plate, being present and conscious. So a simple way I like to describe it is, after your meal, can you describe it? Can you just describe what you've eaten? How did it taste? What were the textures, the colors? Did you enjoy it? Would you eat it again? So really just bringing that mindfulness back to what we're eating. So it can, it's nourishing us. The fourth pillar is movement. So that's really anything that gets your body moving. This can obviously reduce stress, depression, anxiety, and then increase serotonin, which is basically just your happy hormones, and help you live longer as well. So, how does it make you feel? How does your current exercise routine make you feel? Is it energized, more exhausted? So does it really support your overall, your emotional and physical health? I think that's a good question to start with when you're thinking about your exercise routine. And it really should be something that you look forward to. I know after a long day, you're not super excited to go to gym maybe, but I think a nice way of thinking of it is, how am I going to feel afterwards? And usually the answer is I'm going to feel good. So don't dread it, and really find different ways of moving that makes you feel good. So that could be dancing, it could be walking, it could be yoga, could be something a bit more, high intensity. So it's really about listening to your body and what works for you. So rest if you need to rest, and be mindful that if you're going through a very stressful period, doing higher intensity exercises can actually impair or impact your overall levels of cortisol. So if you are already stressed and your cortisol and adrenaline levels are high, your stress responses, exercising for high intensities or long periods of time or at night, it can actually keep that cortisol level elevated. So during those more stressful periods, it's a good idea to, maybe do some more Pilates or yoga, something that's a bit more gentle and kind of can promote a more calm state for you and your body. The fifth pillar is just being aware of our emotions. As I said before, our perception of stress is what can activate our stress response. So just being aware of that. Is your perception of stress healthy or unhealthy? Is there a way you can kind of adopt an attitude of gratitude, which can, kind of help us reframe from negative thinking to positive thinking? And really, I always say, don't believe everything you think. Our thoughts are really powerful, and if we can switch them from, negative thinking to more positive thinking, we can move out of that stress response and really just start to be grateful for a lot of things in our lives. And another point I'd like to add is that, it's okay to ask for help. I think a lot of us, we're all go-givers, go-getters, and we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do it all and be it all. But I think it's also okay to, look at areas of your life. What can you delegate? What can you ask for help with, just to make things a little bit easier for you? And the final pillar, I know I'm running out of time here, but I think it's important for us to remember, and I think this, the virus has been a really great, it's been devastating, but it's also been a really great reminder for us that we are all part of the earth and the universe. So it's important for us to kind of be mindful of our own circles, cycles, our own rhythms, things from your menstrual cycle to the seasons. It can all impact our choices, our cravings. So just kind of being mindful of that and being compassionate with yourself when you're going through, different cycles. Grounding is a really great way of us to also kind of stop and be present. So grounding is just, it can also help us reduce inflammation in the body. So that's basically taking your shoes off, finding a patch of grass, and having direct contact with the earth. So negative ions into your body, and that helps neutralize excess kind of free radicals, which are, they build up in your body due to stress. So that can help ground us. And then bio-individuality basically just means we're all different, we're all individuals, and your body will respond differently to different things. So it's really just important to find what works for you, creating healthy boundaries, following your intuition or gut feeling, and giving your body the best possible chance to kind of heal and be its optimal self. So this is my last slide. Basically, by taking the time to really care for yourself, you will have more confidence, a clearer mind, and it's really hard to tap into your inner wisdom when you're not taking care of yourself. So it's not only okay to prioritize yourself, but it's really essential to be able to give your best of the best of yourself to your purpose, fulfilling your purpose, and just living an overall healthier life. So I'm going to leave you with that quote, and I hope you can kind of take some tips or steps away from this and start to implement them into your everyday life. So thank you, and thank you, Nika, again.
Thank you, Kylie, so much for this lovely presentation. I definitely, it's good to remember some things for sure. And also, Steve has shared quite a few TED Talks in the chat as well with additional resources. So that's really good as well. Thank you.